On July 31, 1999, two best friends, J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett, who were both 17 years old, left Dothan, Alabama to go to a birthday party. They just could not go back home. The cops found something bad in the car they had been driving the night before, which they had left parked. The girls were found with their heads shot into the trunk. How did the cops find the killer in the end? Hi, and welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Ozark is a city in southeast Alabama near the Florida border. It is home to Fort Rucker and the county seat of Dale County. Starting a family and retiring are both good things to do there. Before the tragic murder of two high school seniors in 1999, the town was not known for making headlines. J.B. Beasley was born on July 31, 1981, in Troy, Alabama, to Cheryl and Hilton Lanier Beasley. After her parents' separation in 1984, J.B. and her mother moved to Dothan, where her mother married Joey Bagoon, who became her stepfather. Growing up with her four sisters in a beautiful home, J.B. was an outgoing young woman involved in activities like cheerleading, dance, piano, and swimming. She even modeled for other companies and cherished spending time with her family and friends. In high school, J.B. met Tracy Hollett, who was fellow dancer, and they quickly became close friends. Tracy Jean Hollett was born on March 3, 1982, and she was the daughter of Carolyn Robert Hollett and Mike Roberts. Tracy's father was a police officer in Dothan, and he passed away when she was just 5 years old. Her mother later married Mike Roberts, who helped raise Tracy. While not as outgoing as J.B., Tracy always prioritized others over herself and fiercely protected her younger brothers. Tracy attended Northview High School, excelling academically and cheering alongside J.B. On July 31, 1999, around 10:05 p.m., J.B. and Tracy left Dothan to attend a birthday party for J.B. in Headland. However, as they ventured beyond their hometown, the girls encountered danger due to their unfamiliarity with the route. They realized they were lost around 10:30 p.m. and stopped at a BP gas station near the intersection of roads 173 and 431 in Headland. Using the payphone at the gas station, they called their friends for better directions to the party. After the call, the girls continued their journey, eventually reaching Ozark in Alabama, which was about 24 miles northwest of Headland. Despite the store being closed at 11:30 p.m., they went there in search of assistance since they were still unsure of how to reach the party. Tracy used the payphone at the store to call her mother and explain their situation, including their detour to Ozark and their plan to return home. At the same gas station, Marilyn Merritt and her two daughters also bought soda and approached them asking for directions back to Dothan. Marilyn noticed that the girls understood their directions and found them to be polite. She saw them leave the parking lot while turning right as she had advised. However, the next day, on August 1, 1999, J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett didn't return home. When Tracy's mother reported her missing, the police received their first clue. Later that day, a police officer found J.B.'s car on Herring Avenue in Ozark. It was strange because the doors were locked. The gas tank was almost empty despite being filled the previous day, and the car was dirty. There were no signs of forced entry, and the girls' money was still in the car along with J.B.'s driving license on the dashboard. The only thing missing was car keys, but the girls were nowhere to be found. The police became concerned when they discovered a handprint on the sealed trunk lid, suggesting something was seriously wrong. They believed the locked trunk might hold important clues, but didn't have the keys to open it. It took them 6 hours to realize they could use an inner latch to open it. Inside the trunk, they found the lifeless bodies of the two girls. Although they were fully clothed, the bottoms of their pants were dirty. Both girls had been shot, one in the right cheek and the other in the head. Tracy had scratches on her arm, a 9mm shell case on her leg, and thornberries on her pants. JB's clothes, especially her new shoes, were dirty and covered in mud. The devastating discovery was shared with the family members, who were informed about the dead victims being inside the trunk. The police launched an investigation into the murders. Initially, theft was considered a possible motive, but it was quickly ruled out when the girls' belongings, jewelry, cash, and credit cards were found in the car. Tests conducted after their deaths revealed no presence of alcohol or drugs in their bodies. The study also indicated that neither girl had been sexually assaulted before their deaths, which suggested that sexual desire wasn't a motive. However, over 2 months later, the state crime lab reported that JB's bra, pants, and skin had come into contact with unnamed semen. The palm mark on the trunk's lid remained a mystery, as there were no matches in the system and no one to compare the data with. The news of the double murder spread widely, and authorities offered a reward to gather more information, but it didn't yield any new leads. But the authorities found something quickly that was a surprise. On September 1, a month after JB and Tracy's bodies were discovered, a 28-year-old man named Johny William Barrentine went to the police station in Ozark. He claimed to have witnessed the famous double killing of 2 teenagers in Dothan. Barrentine stated that on the night of the murders, he went out to buy milk for his 2-year-old son at around the same time Tracy Hollett called her mother from a payphone at a small shop. According to Barrentine, he saw a terrible crime occur while he was outside. Later that night at around 1 a.m., Barrentine returned home looking upset and told his wife that he had been hit by a black truck near Herring Road. In the following days, he shared the details of JB and Tracy's deaths with some of his friends. They convinced him to inform the police about what he had witnessed because it might be relevant to the investigation and could help solve the crime. Barrentine hoped that by providing this information, he might also be eligible for a reward. However, during a 4-hour interview with the Ozark police, Barrentine changed his story 6 times, which raised concerns. He initially told the then police chief, Tony R. Spivey, that he saw a black truck speeding away from the location where the girls' bodies were discovered on the night they were killed. But as the interview went on, his story kept changing. Finally, he said that he had picked up a tattooed man and that the 2 of them had driven by the small big shop. Barrentine also claimed that the person he offered a ride to got into a car with 2 women, whom he recognized as the murdered teenagers from Dothan. He said that when they got to Herring Avenue, the man pushed the girls out of the car and put them in the trunk. When the girls tried to escape, a fight broke out. Barrentine says that he saw something in the man's hand just before he heard 2 gunshots. The men said they were back after giving that man another ride away from the spot and dropping him off at home. Barrentine told the cops that the person he had picked up and given a ride to was his neighbor and that he knew him. Barrentine lived less than a mile from where the bodies were found, which is scary. Police did not believe him, so they made him the main suspect in the deaths of Tracy Hollett and J.B. Beasley. When the Ozark police arrived at the scene, they immediately arrested Johny Barrentine and charged him with 2 counts of capital murder. However, there were numerous issues with his statements that raised doubts about their accuracy. Barrentine never talked about JB's sexual behavior, which would have made sense of his body and the holes in his clothes. A number of people noticed that in his picture, he looked upset and like he had just woken up from a deep sleep. He also said that his neighbor was lying about what happened that night. Barrentine admitted right away that he had made up the whole story to get the prize money. Still, the cops thought at the time that they had the right suspect in custody. Agent Charles Huggins from the Alabama Bureau of Investigation stated during the preliminary hearing on September 21 that Barrentine was able to recognize the clothes and other evidence from the crime scene, indicating his presence there at the time of his arrest. At a bond meeting on October 18 at the Dale County Jail in Ozark, Barrentine was ordered to remain in custody even though he hadn't paid his bond. Barrentine claimed in front of the judge that he never gave a ride to a tattooed man and didn't witness anything unusual on the night of the killings. However, he still maintained his innocence. He admitted to fabricating the story to potentially receive a monetary reward, but was ultimately approved for bond and returned to jail. During this hard time, Barrentine's family members never stopped standing by him. They even gave comments to the media in which they said he was innocent and could not hurt anyone. Barrentine's lawyer, Bill Kimmons, strongly believed that his client had no involvement in the double murders. Kimmons argued that the intense 4-hour interrogation had worn Barrentine down, leading him to tell a fabricated story. He pointed out that Barrentine was never given the opportunity to take a break or leave during the questioning. The defense also highlighted that Barrentine had a limited education, only completing 7th grade and part of 8th grade, and was enrolled in special education classes, suggesting that he lacked the capacity to plan such a heinous crime. When Barrentine's DNA didn't match the DNA found on JB's body and clothes, he was released on December 17, 1999. In January 2000, a grand jury in Dale County decided not to charge Barrentine, suggesting that they did not believe he was involved in the double murder. However, the investigation faced challenges after Barrentine's release, and detectives' methods were criticized. One of the potential suspects was a man from Michigan who had attended a party near the location where JB's car was later found. Investigators discovered that this individual had left town shortly before the murders occurred. They made 3 trips to Michigan to question him. On the night of the killings, the Michigan suspect couldn't provide an alibi for 3 to 4 hours, and he made peculiar comments to others afterward. While investigating, the police also focused on the driver of a small white pickup truck, as a security camera inside the store captured a blurry image of a similar truck at the gas pumps when JB and Tracy were using the payphone to call Tracy's mother. However, there was no evidence of a gas purchase at that time, making it difficult to establish a digital trail to follow. A month into the investigation, police asked the public for help by sharing a picture of the truck to the media. However, both the driver and the truck disappeared, and the lead went cold. Investigators' last lead was a guy from Mississippi, and police said that the man who was brought back from Jones County had been arrested there on an old warrant. Spivey says that the person was living with family in Ozark, but he left 2 days after the murders because police wanted to talk to him about the case. Even though this tip did not have any proof to back it up, nothing important was learned. The detectives had no choice but to let him go. On July 31, 1999, at night, a woman called the police to say she heard yelling and 2 gunshots near Highway 123 South, just inside the city limits. When asked why she had not come forward sooner, she said she was afraid to get involved because of what she had said. Police looked everywhere in the area and found a 9mm bullet that was the same as the one that killed the kids. But it was not the same brand as the bullet shell pieces that were found on Tracy's body. The bullet that had not been fired also had no marks that could be used to compare it to other evidence in the case. Even though there had been many false leads over the years, detectives came to yet another dead end. Even after the study was over and JB, investigators never gave up on finding a DNA match, even though Michael and Tracy tried to move on with their lives. After going unsolved for years, a new twist in the case added a new layer to the intriguing story. Rena Crumb's shocking claim about the deaths of J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hallett would become public in 2015. A designated member of the Ozark Auxiliary Police has accused a member of the Ozark Police of killing J.B. Beasley, Tracy Hallett, and others while trying to hide it. Rena said that on the evening of July 31, 1999, An Ozark police officer stopped Jay Beasley and asked where some cassette tapes were that had talks recorded on them. Rihanna says that these tapes could have shown that Ozark police officers were selling and making money off of cocaine, which is against the law. She also said that the argument went violent and led to the deaths of 2 innocent teenagers. Rihanna said that she had been threatened by a number of police officers who knew who the murderer was, but destroyed proof to hide it. Rihanna said that Gary Butch Whittington, Rex Tipton, and Eddie Henderson scared and worried her. She even said that Tony Spivey, who was the police chief at the time and was in charge of the first investigation, was part of the cover-up. She didn't disclose the name of the police officer she accused of committing the murders. John B. Carroll, a well-known writer and newspaper editor, speculated in an article that the officer may have believed the 2 girls possessed tapes that could be used as evidence in court, just 48 hours after their deaths on August 2, 1999. Carroll also mentioned that Rihanna, one of the victims, couldn't identify the real killer due to being severely beaten with a baseball bat after coming forward. Law enforcement officials implicated by Rihanna have denied any involvement, including Beasley and Tracy Hallett, stating that they have no knowledge of the situation. Even though the accusations went viral on several true crime blogs and social media, leading to a defamation lawsuit, none of them were ever legally named as suspects in the case because there was no physical proof to back them up. On January 29, 2016, Ozark, Alabama police officers Rex Tipton, Tony Spivey, Eddie Henderson, and Gary Butch Whittington sued Rihanna Crum, John B. Carroll, and Dean Matthews for slander and character abuse. In 2018, the judge threw out that case. In May 2016, a judge found Rihanna Crum guilty of bothering Jay B. Beasley's sister and got a $250 fine and a suspended term. Over the years, the government has looked into many different options. They took DNA samples from a lot of candidates and talked to a lot of them, but nothing turned up. Before cops could catch a suspect, 20 years would pass and new DNA technology would be made. In March 2019, the DNA from body and clothes was sent to the Parabon Nano Lab in Virginia. This lab works with public genealogical sources to do DNA phenotyping and genetics. After studying the DNA, the lab finally found a link to 45-year-old Coley McCraney. Before DNA evidence tied Coley Lewis McCraney to the brutal murders of J.B., he was never a suspect in the case of Beasley and Tracy Hallett. McCraney grew up in Alabama and went to high school in Ozark, where he finished in 1992. He played sports and was the head of the library club while he was there. Then he joined the U.S. Air Force. From 1993 to 1997, he was in the Air Force. According to the Dothan Eagle, McCraney's ex-wife told the Air Force in 1994 that he had beaten her. At the time, he had been married since 1992, but he split up with his first wife in 1994 and divorced her later. McCraney remarried in 2001 and had kids with his new wife, but he did not pay child support in 1998. McCraney has not been found guilty of a crime in the last 20 years or so. He had been a truck driver his whole life and worked for several different Alabama trucking companies. In the past few years, he helped start a church and was its president. On March 19, 2019, Coley McCraney was caught after a traffic stop in Dollarville, Alabama. Beasley and Tracy Hallett were also found. At the time of the murders, he was about 26 years old and living on Licenby Drive in Ozark, about a mile from where the bodies of J.B. in 1999. People found out about Beasley and Tracy Hallett. After he was arrested, McCraney talked to the police and said he did not know the girls. He did not explain why he killed them. Both the people of Ozark and Ozark Police Chief Marlons Walk, who went to school with McCraney, were very surprised to hear that he was in jail. When all the pieces of this confusing case were finally put together, there seemed to be one more thing to find. Rihanna Crum, who is now 53, had said that the Ozark Police Department had covered up the murder. In August 2022, when she testified at a hearing for Ukrainians, she took back what she had said. McCraney, who is now 49 years old, is accused of killing J.B. by shooting Beasley and Tracy Hallett. He is facing 5 counts of murder with the death penalty. Since the time he was taken into custody, he has been in the Dale County Jail. Before his hearing on April 17, 2023, he did not get a bond. When the killer was finally caught, the families of the 2 girls were pleased. We can only hope that the families will be able to move on now that they know their girls are finally getting what is right. Do you still think that McCraney killed those people more than 20 years ago? If so, what caused it? Do you think the claims that the cops tried to hide something are true? And thanks for watching.